Hello everyone, and thank you for your time joining me today. Today's Omid is Bava Kamma Daf 77 Omid B. This is Daf straight in Va'ama Reish Lakish. Omar Haya Rabbi Shimon would say that the red heifer can be redeemed. So what does that mean? A red heifer that was slaughtered with the intent that it should be used for non-sacred purposes can be redeemed and eaten. It may not be used for ritual purification if it was slaughtered on its prior and cannot be redeemed. The halacha is not according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Sefer Tahara, Paraduma 1:9. With money, even when it has already been slaughtered upon its prior, for the sake of purification. For this reason, Rabbi Shimon claimed that the meat had a time when it was fit for consumption, as it can be rendered permitted for consumption through redemption. The Gemara states its conclusion. Evidently, Rabbi Shimon holds that any animal that is ready to be redeemed is considered as though it has already been redeemed. They want to discuss rather the merit of the answer provided by Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. According to Rabbi Yochanan, did not state an answer in accordance with that of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish, that the Mishnah is referring to a blemished animal, because it wants to interpret the Mishnah as dealing with all kinds of sacrificial animals, even with unblemished ones. But what is the reason Reish Lakish did not state an answer in accordance with that of Rabbi Yochanan? Reish Lakish could have said to you that the verse states, if a man steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, Exodus 21:37, this verse compares slaughtering to selling, thereby indicating that anywhere a fourfold and fivefold payment is applicable for the sale of a particular animal, is likewise applicable for its slaughter, and anywhere that the fourfold or fivefold payment is not applicable for the sale of an animal, is not applicable for its slaughter either. And with regard to this case of sacrificial animals, since when one sells sacrificial animals, this is not a valid sale, and no fourfold or fivefold payment is incurred, so too there is no fourfold or fivefold payment for their slaughter. And these two stages follow their own line of reasoning. As it was stated, according to the statement of Rabbi Shimon, that an act of slaughter that is not fit for accomplishing its ritual purpose is not considered an act of slaughter at all, and it does not entail liability to pay the fourfold or fivefold payment. In the case of a thief who sells a stolen animal with a wound, this will cause it to die within 12 months, a terefa. Generally speaking, terefa is an animal that is suffering from a wound that will cause it to die within 12 months. The Torah renders it prohibited to eat an animal that has been injured or is stricken with a disease of this nature. Although the actual source for this prohibition is a matter of dispute. Some authorities decide Exodus 22:30, you shall not eat any flesh that is torn of animals in the field. Others suggest that this halacha originates from Deuteronomy 14:21, you shall not eat of any animal carcass. According to Minchas Chinuch and others, both verses together serve as a source for the prohibition. Rabbi Yochanan says the thief is liable to pay the fourfold or fivefold payment if he sells the animal rather than slaughters it, and Reish Lakish says he is exempt. The Gemara elaborates. Rabbi Yochanan says that he is liable, as though the fourfold or fivefold payment is not applicable for the slaughter of a terefa, according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, as its meat may not be eaten. Nevertheless, it is applicable for its sale. Reish Lakish says that the thief is exempt, as since the fourfold or fivefold payment is not applicable for the slaughter of a terefa, according to Rabbi Shimon, it is not applicable for its sale either. Rabbi Yochanan raised an objection to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish from the following brayta. If one stole an animal of diverse kinds, kalayim, the halacha concerning diverse kinds of animals include two separate prohibitions. The first is a prohibition against crossbreeding of animals from different species. The second is a prohibition against working a team of animals comprising of different species. Do not plow an ox and a donkey together. Deuteronomy 22:10. If different species of animals are crossbred, the offspring are called kalayim. If one stole an animal of diverse kinds, ganam kalayim v'chodo. If one steals a sheep-goat hybrid or a terefa and slaughters or sells it, he must pay the fourfold or fivefold payment according to the opinion of the rabbis. From Sefer Zichin Hilkei 29, Torah Choshim Mitzvot 50. E.g. a sheep-goat hybrid and slaughtered it, or if he stole a terefa and sold it, he pays the fourfold or fivefold payment. What is it not correct to say that this brayta, which mentions the case of selling a stolen terefa but not slaughtering it, is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon? Apparently, according to Rabbi Shimon, even though the fourfold or fivefold payment is not applicable for the slaughter of a terefa, it is nevertheless applicable for its sale. Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan in response, no, this brayta is not taught in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Well, the follows are the opinion of the rabbis who disagree with Rabbi Shimon and maintain that a thief is liable for fourfold or fivefold payment for slaughtering the animal, even if the act of slaughter does not render its meat fit for consumption, as in the case of a terefa. Whereas, if the Bible reflects the opinion of the rabbis, why does it mention the sale of a terefa but not a slaughter? According to the opinion of the rabbis, is a fourfold or fivefold payment applicable for the sale of a terefa, while it is not applicable for its slaughter? This is certainly not the case. The Gemara responds with a counter question. Well, what would you say? That the Braita reflects the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. The same difficulty could be raised in the case of diverse kinds, as the Braita mentions the animal slaughter but not its sale. Is the fourfold or fivefold payment applicable for the slaughter of an animal of diverse kinds, while it is not applicable for its sale? There is certainly no difference between slaughtering and selling in this case. Rather, one cannot make such inferences from the Braita, as it teaches liability with regard to the slaughter of diverse kinds, and the same is true with regard to its sale. If so, one can say the same for the opinion of the rabbis as well. The Braita teaches liability with regard to the sale of a terefa, and the same is true with regard to its slaughter. Once a Braita is interpreted in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, and not that of Rabbi Shimon, there is no bearing on the dispute between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. And Rabbi Yochanan could say to you, what is this comparison? But if you say that the Braita reflects the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, and that is why it refers specifically to the sale of a terefa, the Braita can be explained, since it is necessarily taught in the case of a terefa only in one manner, that of selling. It maintained the same style of presentation and taught the case of diverse kinds in only one manner, that of slaughtering. But if you say that the Braita is according to the opinion of the rabbis, there is no reason for it to present just one scenario in either case, but rather let the Braita combine them and teach them in a single sentence. If one stole an animal of diverse kinds of terefa and then slaughtered or sold either of them, he paid the fourfold or fivefold payment. The Gemara concludes it's difficult according to the opinion of Reish Lakish. The Braita teaches that a thief is liable to pay the fourfold or fivefold payment in the case of an animal of diverse kinds. The Gemara asks, it is written in the Torah, if a man steals an ox or a sheep, Exodus 21:37. Both a goat and a sheep can be referred to in the Bible by the Hebrew word seh, for lack of a corresponding English word. A sheep, which often leads to confusion and inaccuracies. Now it says concerning the verse, these are the animals that you may eat, the ox, the seh of a sheep, and the seh of a goat, Deuteronomy 14:4. That this verse establishes a paradigm for other cases. Wherever the word seh is stated in the Torah, it says to exclude only an animal of diverse kinds. The word seh denotes either sheep or goat. A hybrid which is neither sheep nor goat does not qualify as a seh. Why then is a fourfold or fivefold payment applicable to one who stole this kind of animal? The Gemara answers this is different here. In the case of the fourfold or fivefold payment, as the verse states, or Exodus 21:37, a term could have been avoided. Explained in 67b, this extra word serves to include an animal of diverse kinds, i.e. the sheep-goat hybrid. The Gemara asks, and does every instance of the word or serve to include diverse kinds? But isn't it taught in a Braita? It is written, when a bull or sheep or goat is born, it shall be 7 days under its mother, and from the 8th day onward it may be accepted as a fire offering to the Lord. In Leviticus 22:27, the phrase a bull or sheep serves to exclude diverse kinds. Parat aklayim, a hybrid animal that is a product of the union of a sheep and a goat, is unfit for sacrifice on the altar. I.e., an animal of diverse kinds may not be brought as an offering. The phrase or goat serves to exclude an animal that resembles another. Let's explain that parat benidmeh, an animal that looks like a different species is unfit for sacrifice on the altar, even if it is not a hybrid. For example, if an gave birth to a lamb that looks like a goat, or a she-goat produced a kid that looks like a sheep, is unfit for sacrifice on the altar due to its resemblance to a different species. Sometimes an animal born with a defect that causes it to look like a member of a different species. Occasionally, the animal is entirely similar to another type, especially in the case of goats and sheep, which are closely related biologically. It's impossible for an animal to be born lacking a trait characteristic of its kind, or possessing a trait characteristic of another kind, and this causes it to resemble a different type of animal, e.g. when a lamb is born without a customary fat tail or with horns that are uncharacteristic of a sheep, it resembles a goat. A sheep that is the offspring of two sheep, but that look like a goat, and vice versa. Rava said in response, the derivation from the word or depends on the verse in question. Here it is interpreted based on the context of the verse, and there it is also interpreted based on the context of the verse. Here with regard to theft, the reason the word or serves as an inclusion that it is written an ox or a sheep, which are two kinds of animals from which you cannot produce diverse kinds. I can explain that. Sheep and goats belong to the subfamily Caprinae, whereas oxen belong to the subfamily Bovine. Because they belong to two different subfamilies, and also due to the size difference between them, it's impossible to crossbreed oxen and sheep. The significance of the word or is that the Torah could have used the prefix vav, which means and, to include two or more items in the verse pertaining to the fourfold fact payment. Had the Torah stated an ox and a sheep, or would not have included various kinds, as no hybrid can be produced from these two animals. The use of the word or serves to teach that a she-goat hybrid should be included in this halakha. By contrast, with regard to sacrificial animals, where the Torah states a sheep or a goat, had the verse stated a sheep and a goat, it would have been assumed that the various kinds are also included in this category, as these animals can produce a hybrid. Yet the term or teaches the contrary, and diverse kinds are excluded, as they cannot procreate together, and therefore the word or serves to include an animal of diverse kinds. By contrast, with regard to sacrificial animals, the reason the word or serves as an exclusion is that it is written sheep and goat, which are two animals from which you can produce diverse kinds. Consequently, the word or serves to exclude diverse kinds. That's the end of the omelette. Thank you for listening, and all the best. Bye.